My name is Brione Martin. I'm pursuing a master's degree in entertainment business at Full Sail, and I desire to become the king of packaging creativity. My personal journey with mastery began when I saw Michael Jackson moonwalk for the first time as a child. The very moment I saw him perform on television, his movement, emotional delivery, amazing vocal abilities, and rhythmic conveyance of such artistry inspired me to no end. I became fascinated with his performances so much, I wanted to live in the very magic within myself that it had given birth to. In spite of the brutally honest approach I had taken with myself when examining my own efforts to sing, I persisted and made peace with my shortcomings. This for me was step 2 of the apprentice phase, which the text goes on to describe as practice toward the acquisition of skills. It was a failure in some regards, but it left me with some things I could internalize, as I was determined to recreate a magic of my own. In that journey, I realized I could recreate and innovate everything I had admired about him, except singing. Therefore, I went with the inclusion of rap as my vocal medium, and I excelled at it. After I was no longer fulfilled by the act of performing, I began to set my sights on what truly interested me, and all of it. And in that, I noticed I had developed what Michael must have seen within himself in order to be such a stunning artist: the spectacle. I practiced at it with a few artists, carefully watching their performance on video, showing them the ropes of performing and seeing what they looked like and giving them feedback and direction, and I loved every minute of it. Insights I've gained from the 5 strategies for finding my life's task? Well, 1, in my deep need to feel the fulfillment I lost, I had to think back to the original source, and the very spectacle I fell in love with was from the perspective of seeing it, far more than being it. I celebrated other artists' performances much more than I celebrated and rejoiced in my own. 2, much like Charles Darwin's first few months at Cambridge University, my time as a performer helped me realize that I too didn't fit in the initial environment that people saw me being in. I felt more inclined to help create the spectacle and not actually be the spectacle. 3, my false path was when I decided to perform. I went down that path after receiving admiration for mimicking techniques from a multi-talented showman. I only developed my own because I wanted to sell it as a product, and it just wasn't me. 4, I'm often tempted to return to music as a performer just merely because of the ease of access to the industry that I'd like to work in. However, I now see that as mere expedience, and it doesn't give me the opportunity to truly master my ability to develop and hone the spectacle itself. And finally, 5, and I'd like to expound on this one a little bit. The book states that no good can come from deviating from the path you were destined to follow. You will be assailed by varieties of hidden pain. My insight from that rings true in the vast majority of its spirit, because although I take pride in my contributions to my communities, I felt an immense depression which led me back to the path that I was intended on. I've been put here to discover the next Michael Jackson and bring him to the forefront, and here to package that spectacle. My turning point was my final job when I was an HIV outreach coordinator, and I looked back and there were some very fun and funny and great memories, and I had met some lifelong friends, but I realized that after moving to another agency, it wasn't fun anymore. I had met and befriended an incredibly large amount of people, and a large amount of them had succumbed to the AIDS virus, which filled me with a lot of depression and pain, as you can imagine, and I had learned to ignore it. But I ended up leaving the social services field and explored a bit. Just as the text describes, and finding my way back, I began to search for sources of fulfillment that moved me further and further away from my path in ways that led to a dead end. Not because of the lack of opportunity for advancement, but because of my deteriorated interest in advancing in any of those fields. Similar to Temple Grandin, I guess I'm directing myself toward the small things I'm good at, rather than focus on the mistakes I've made and the personal weaknesses that inspired them.